Magical treats taste great, but justice and equality taste better. To combat hate, all ad revenue from my HB Kitchen will be donated to trans and LGBTQ charities. Thank you for supporting the kitchen and helping make the world a better place. Mischief managed. Hello witches, wizards, and those who are yet to receive their Hogwarts school letters. Welcome back to my Harry Potter kitchen. This is the YouTube series where I'm baking my way through the Harry Potter books, creating magical recipes for each and every item of food and drink that we find inside. If you missed last week's recipe where we served up 4 Hogwarts House inspired porridge bowls, then make sure you check out the link down below in the description to catch up. And if it's your first time in the kitchen, welcome. If you'd like to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, I've got something new on the way, so fire up those cauldrons because we're about to bake some magic. This week's recipe can be found in chapter 10 of the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Marauder's Map, where we see Hagrid sent him a bunch of earwiggy flowers that looked like yellow cabbages. Cabbage is back, and if you remember last year during the Chamber of Secrets, I used cabbage to create my Whomping Willow chocolate cake, which was a little bit unusual but tasted fantastic. This year, however, I decided to keep things savoury and create my twist on a cabbage-based side known as sauerkraut. If you've never tried sauerkraut before, it is fermented cabbage and it's incredibly easy to make. So in this week's recipe, I'm going to walk you through the process and I'm going to flavour mine into 4 unique Hogwarts House inspired varieties. First things first, we need to prepare our cabbage. For the sauerkraut base, it is super important that you wash your cabbage before you start preparing. I'm going to start by chopping my green cabbage. You can shred this by hand, but I'm going to use the food processor attachment on my KitchenAid to help get through the job more quickly. Chop into small chunks and then feed through the processor until it's all shredded. At this point, you want to sprinkle over your salt, which will help extract all of the moisture from the cabbage. Massage the salt into the cabbage using your hands for about 5 minutes. At this point, it should already be shiny and wet, but I'm going to set that to one side and allow the salt to keep working. I'm also going to be using red cabbage for our Gryffindor and Ravenclaw sauerkraut, so I'm going to repeat the process here, paying extra attention to remove the harder white centre. Chop that into chunks and then shred through the food processor. Cover the red cabbage with your salt and then massage that in. Just in the time that it took me to prepare the red cabbage, you can already see how much liquid has come out of the green cabbage. You can squeeze that and see it all running out. This juice is going to help us ferment the sauerkraut. To help our cabbage pre-ferment before we flavour it, I'm going to loosely cover each of these with some cling film and then leave in a warm place for 1 to 2 hours. So that is the base for our sauerkraut complete. I told you, it was super easy. Okay, before we move on to flavouring the sauerkraut, there is one more important step, which is sterilising our jars to make sure we remove any bacteria that could spoil the cabbages. Even if your jars are fresh out of the dishwasher, it's always best to follow these few steps and make sure they're ready for use. I'm using Kilner jars for this recipe, but you can also use mason jars or any other variety to store your sauerkraut. To sterilise your jars, pour boiling water into each and then leave for a few minutes. You should also pour boiling water over the lids to sterilise those as well. Carefully pour the hot water out of the jars and then flip them upside down onto a drying rack. If you're short on time, you can also place these in the oven to dry out more quickly, but I'm going to leave these to come up to room temperature and drip dry on the side while we flavour our cabbage. Okay, so that is all of the prep work for our sauerkraut complete, and now we can move on to adding a little bit of Hogwarts House magic to this recipe. I'm going to use a range of natural ingredients to add colour and depth to each of the sauerkraut flavours. First up, I'm going to use green cabbage for Slytherin and Hufflepuff. Our Slytherin sauerkraut is going to be the more traditional version, which is flavoured with caraway seeds and juniper berries. Take your pre-fermented cabbage base and then split the mixture into 2, making sure you keep the juice, as we'll use this to top up our jars at the end. Sprinkle your caraway seeds and juniper berries over the top and then give that a good stir. Spoon your mix into one of the sterilised jars, pressing down firmly between each spoonful. We want to leave a good gap at the top, so once you're about an inch away, press the cabbage down firmly as much as you can and then finish with a few tablespoons of the juice. It should just cover the top of the cabbage. Loosely secure the lid so that it isn't airtight, and then it's ready to ferment. The Hufflepuff sauerkraut will be flavoured with ginger and turmeric. Peel your roots and then finely grate them. Remember, turmeric can stain, so be careful what you grate it on, and you may want to wear gloves. Add the ginger and turmeric to the rest of the green cabbage and then stir that through until evenly combined. Press spoonfuls of your cabbage into one of your jars and then work your way up to the top, spooning over some more juice until it just about covers it. Secure the lid and then this one is also good to go. 2 down and 2 to go. I'll talk a little bit more about the fermentation process shortly, but before we get there, let's move on to flavouring our Ravenclaw and Gryffindor sauerkraut made from red cabbage. It's a very similar process for the red cabbage, so I'm going to begin by splitting the cabbage into 2 and keeping the juice to one side. The Ravenclaw sauerkraut is going to be flavoured with beetroot, so all I'm going to do is grate that, tip the beetroot into the red cabbage and then stir until well combined. Red cabbage can often need a little extra help fermenting, so I've also added in some extra salt and then started spooning that into my jar. Pack it all in until it's about an inch from the top and then pour over some of that vibrant purple juice. Lightly seal and we can move on to Gryffindor. Our final sauerkraut flavour will be spicy chili, carrot and sriracha sauerkraut for Gryffindor. Peel and grate the carrot and then pour that over the cabbage, along with your chili flakes and 2 tablespoons of sriracha until evenly combined, and add salt as required. This one is a little more involved as you add it into the jar, as I'm going to alternate layers of sriracha and cabbage, pressing down as I go. Once you get to the top, finish with a little of our purple juice, seal, and we're ready to ferment. Now, although fermentation sounds a little bit weird, it is the completely natural process where safe levels of bacteria can develop in your food over time. And as long as you keep an eye on it, keep on monitoring it, it's perfectly fine to eat. Fermentation happens best at room temperature, and then once you get to your desired flavour, you pop that into the fridge, which will slow down the process. Fermentation can happen as quickly as 24 hours, but I found the sweet spot for this recipe to be around 5 to 7 days. It will keep on getting more tangy and sharp as that time progresses, so you want to keep on tasting and testing it, and once you reach your desired flavour, you're good to go. During the fermentation process, you want to check on your sauerkraut each day. You'll know things are working if you can see some tiny bubbles at the top. Move the cabbage around to help it ferment evenly, and then ensure you pack it back down so that the cabbage is always under the liquid. You may need to top it up with some additional salt water every now and again if it begins to dry out. You can keep tasting and eating as this ferments, but remember to pop it into the fridge once it hits your desired taste to avoid it from spoiling. It will then keep in the fridge for months. And with that, our Hogwarts House inspired sauerkraut is complete. Who knew transforming cabbage could be so magical? Another Hogwarts House inspired recipe in the bag. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and whether you're most excited to try the classic Slytherin sauerkraut, our Hufflepuff ginger and turmeric, Ravenclaw beetroot, or Gryffindor chili, carrot and sriracha. That is all for this week's recipe, but if you want to see more from the kitchen, make sure you like this video. It really helps new witches and wizards find our recipes. Then hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. I'm off to tuck into the rest of my sauerkraut, but I'll see you next time.